Hey guys, Frank here. Today we'll check out some stories from /AskReddit. Here's the first. Lawyers, what were your "this guy isn't winning" cases? Had a client tell me she couldn't be charged with drunk driving because her boyfriend was steering from the passenger seat and she was just working the pedals. Pass that consult on to someone else with no shame. I used to work in forensic science and had to testify a lot. One of my co-workers was on his way to testify when he passed by a courtroom that had its door open and heard the attorney screaming at his client, "How can you show up drunk to a DUI trial?" Friend who is a criminal defense attorney was called at 3-something a.m. by the presiding judge. The sheriff is on his way to arrest your client, who is having his bond revoked. I am calling you at 3 a.m. about that because he is having his bond revoked for posting a real name social media threat directed at me and my family. I worked for a trial graphics firm and was working on a case where a forklift driver was driving maniacally and ran into a cinder block wall of a new construction. It caused enough damage that a gentleman on a ladder on the second level of the structure fell and fractured some vertebrae. The forklift driver was reprimanded the day prior driving the forklift in an unsafe manner. In his deposition, he bragged about how many speeding tickets and traffic violations he racked up in his Corvette. It was fun watching the deposition back with the plaintiff's attorney. About halfway through a frivolous order of protection hearing against my client seeking visitation with his son, after the woman admitted she wasn't in danger and a friend told her filing an order of protection would keep him from getting visitation, as the judge was reaming her out, she blurted out, "I want a lawyer." Not a lawyer but was in court to testify. Defendant in another case is pleading guilty. The judge requires him to allocute and he gives a detailed description of his crime. He finishes, the judge looks at some paperwork and says, "Sir, that's not what you're charged with." Child visitation case. Mother argues for less visitation because father is always late, also in bringing the child to school, and generally unreliable. Father is a whooping 38 minutes late to the hearing. Committed crime, then immediately text messages not one, but two friends, "I just committed crime." I had a client give me the poppy seed bagel claim to justify a positive drug test, and it wasn't for opiates. The federal judge asked all the attorneys on a civil case into chambers. He stared point blank at defense counsel and said, "The jury hates you, really hates you." Client sued for injuries from a car accident. He had about 3 or 4 other accidents within the 3 years prior. One of them was a big rollover accident. He had medical treatment for all of them, but he only disclosed the accidents that were not the rollover. Also, insurance company saw on his Instagram that he went skiing even though he was complaining about pain in his low back that was so bad he couldn't walk. We should never have taken the case. I don't know why the office signed him up. Not my case, but happened while I was waiting for my case to be called. Guy was upset the plaintiff was issuing a citation to discover assets against his wife and said, "In my culture women can't own anything." Judge was not amused. A man approached the court for a reduction in his child maintenance payments to my client while driving a brand new BMW SUV. He said because I was a junior at the time, he'd handle the case himself and he'd squash me. After his poor attempt at compiling his disclosure of his financials, he was investigated and it was found that he was laundering money through a fake online church. He's now being criminally prosecuted. NAL, one of our clients showed up to Zoom court literally in the shower. Naked. Showering. In front of the judge. I saw a defendant pulled in for a show cause for violating probation. His drug test had showed positive for drug. He stood up and shouted that it was a false positive because he drank 2 liters of Coke that day. His lawyer grabbed him to sit down with one hand while facepalming with the other. Here's story 2. What are you slowly losing interest in? My career. Just punching the clock until retirement now. 12 more years. I think I can. Instagram, makeup, over-consumerism, bad eating habits. Gaming. While there are some coming out that I'm looking forward to, it's just kind of hard to ignite that spark that I used to have. Dating or falling in love. I used to really pine for a relationship. It's just what you do, and in theory it sounds good, but when I really think of all the practical implications of having to meld my life with another person's life, I can't help but think how much I love my peaceful, little life in my own space. All interests. Do things just to survive, eat, sleep and work. Other people. Seems that I am the healthiest and happiest when I am alone. Finding a relationship. Kinda like being alone. #. Almost everything. The only time I feel happy throughout my entire day is when I'm sleeping. The opposite, intimacy. And yes, I am heterosexual. It's sad. Patience with my wife not making better choices on how she lets others treat her. She is super critical of everything I do, but quick to defend her shitty passive-aggressive friends and her narcissistic parents. She can put firm boundaries on me I must respect, but she doesn't put firm boundaries on others. It's rough. Job searching. It's been a year now and every new cover letter sucks a little more of my soul out of me. Actively posting content to social media except for commenting on Reddit. Stranger Things. You make people wait more than a year for a new season. I noped right out of there. Gaming. Loved it as a kid and young adult, but now that I'm older I don't have the time or energy. Celebrities. When I was younger, I used to freak out whenever I saw someone famous. Freaked out when I got to high-five Keith Urban and shake hands with a C-list actor of a popular show. Now, I couldn't care less and realize how weird they all are. Here's story 3. What's the most NSFW thing you've seen at a concert? I was at an Aerosmith concert in mid-2001. It was an outdoor venue and they had cameras showing the band and shots of the crowd on screen. They had just finished a song and Steven Tyler starts saying on the mic, "Bring the camera over here, bring the camera over here." The camera gets over to where they are and he has it pan into the crowd. The camera frames a shot on a hot chick on someone's shoulders flashing the band. Tyler then says, "She's definitely seen Pink," and then the band launches into that song. Couple at a concert. Girl on the guy's shoulders having fun and singing along to the music. Clearly has no underwear on and only a short skirt. Dude walks up and plops his thumb right up her butt and then runs off into the crowd. It was a big scene when the girl screamed, the crowd started to part and the band stopped playing music. All this happened like a foot away from me. Crazy. Girl got totally naked at a concert and then somehow managed to make her way on stage. She proceeded to dance on stage naked until security intervened. Some dude pulled a girl down by her hair. Then everyone around him proceeded to kick his ass. I took the opportunity to move up to the front row. Also, I've seen gore in concert twice, so all of that. No less than 3 couples in my field of vision having fully penetrative intimacy. Carly Rae Jepsen in 2022. I saw 2 girls going down on each other at a concert once. All of the attention was on them while the band played. A lone girl with no pants on lying on the ground twitching from what appears to be a drug-induced seizure. One lone volunteer security guard saving her from being trampled by the Bonnaroo evening horde. Music Midtown, back in the day. I think the Strokes were on stage at the time. Some chick was body surfing and wearing rather short shorts. Atlanta weather in the summer, and this redneck dude in front of us turns back and goes, "If she comes over here, I'ma stick my finger in her pussy." Needless to say, he tried exactly that and she knocked the frick out of him for it. Pretty sure she broke his jaw. Craziest ship. Some woman was with a much younger guy and during some point she pulled up her shirt and he just started sucking on her nipples. Like, for a while. Then he looked at me and burped. This was at a Wiggles show. Guy was maybe 6 months old. Girl shat her pants in the front row at a Modest Mouse concert. Her boyfriend was pushing and yelling to get out of the crowd to the extent we thought she was having a medical emergency, but the smell that followed gave it away. I was security at EDC. I was 20. Early morning when we make a giant line and push everyone out. I see this dude behind a stage. One girl riding. One on his face. Two more on each hand. I didn't even stop it. I was impressed. Not actually a concert, but I think a dance party counts. I was doing the lighting for it and had to get security to remove two guys because one of them was fisting the other in the middle of the dance floor. On the lawn at a G-Eazy concert, not my choice, and saw a dude walking fast, crying, and actively shiting his pants. Liquid diarrhea trail all the way. We watched people walk through it and sit near it all night. It was gross. I was at an exercising concert and a topless ripped man with pink hair had a posse of about 5 beautiful women all attached to leashes this man was holding. They all listened and obeyed what he said, like getting on their knees. I saw them for a couple minutes before they disappeared in the crowd. I was revolted but also a little envious of that man's ridiculous aura. Woodstock 99. Everything. The Netflix doc is legit. Here's story 4. What's a company secret you can share now because you don't work there anymore? In the early 2000s, the big animation studios in the USA all colluded to informally stop hiring anyone currently working in the other studios within the agreement. This had a huge impact on wage growth for animation artists who couldn't move within the industry. 10 years later, a class action lawsuit had them all sued and settling for well over $150 million to the workers who experienced this sort of wage theft. Yes, House of Mouse, Shrek, all the big names were doing it. The prepared foods at Whole Foods are straight out of an industrial-size Cisco container. Customers pay a premium because the iron used for a company I worked for was made in America. It is made in America after they peel off the Made in India sticker. Number 35 on any phone at Lowe's will get you access to the store paging intercom system. Not really a secret. But you know those conventions where you put your card in a jar for a random prize? I was walking by the sales office after and they were taking them out one by one, discussing who's the most important and deciding who the winner should be. Edit, fixed your mistake, I know, unforgivable. At Comcast, if you ever were unable to pay bills, we would set payment plans. You would need to do a minimum payment, but it'd keep your service on, and the minimum could be paid later. If you were nice, we could also waive up to $100. You need a rep with knowledge to waive the previous balance vs. coming balance, or it could get applied to the next billing cycle. If you fell really far behind, collections external, you could set up a payment plan and get your bills reduced by up to 70%. We also see every porno you rent and how long you've watched it, what room, and how many times you turned it on or off. Spectrum call centers use FIOS for internet access. Their own service couldn't handle the demand. Never worked there, but a friend of mine did forever as a general manager and got let go, so he tells everyone he can. The secret to Mellow Mushroom's pizza crust is molasses. I worked at a casino that had the vault separated from the parking lot by an uninsulated, non-load-bearing, empty wall with sheetrock on one side and a stucco surface on the outside. On any given day the vault contains several million in small bills, but I've seen that room with a mid-8-figure sum after a big weekend. They've changed the layout now, but for a while they're the only protections that room had were cameras and obscurity. That we cleaned the whole store down during COVID every night. You know we didn't, I'm just confirming we didn't. We knew the charges got hot, we knew they could cause a fire, but they rushed them to market to beat the other guys. When I worked at Electronics Boutique, we never tested anything that was traded in. We would have a visual check of the conditions of discs, give consoles a good clean, then just resell everything and let the customers test it for us. If it came back faulty, they just got an immediate refund or exchange, and that was the point they were tested at. I think the time saved was more worthwhile to the company than the odd bit of lost money on a trade. We traded so much there would have been one member of staff full-time testing stuff, far cheaper to just bin the odd mistake. The AI feature we advertised. Just a team of interns doing it manually. The milkshakes you get at Steak and Shake are not made from ice cream. They get a special container called Shake Base that tastes terrible but basically thickens up the milk that they blend in. They have ice cream for sundaes, they just don't use it in the shakes because it's too expensive. If you watch the commercials they promote hand-dipped milkshakes but they never say what they are hand-dipping. Good luck trying to prove citronella in any form works. That wraps it up. Alright folks, follow for more stories with Frank.